everyone. Today we are talking about why you're struggling to make ends meet. I had a moment this last weekend and this Monday, and kind of opened my eyes, really. And so we were going to talk about this a little bit. We belong to a homeschool co-op. And of course, they're always doing fundraising and stuff. And so I decided to help out with a fundraiser selling some spices. Our viewers are always asking for me to sell the spices in our Dining on a Dime cookbooks right here. By the way, 25% off right now, livingonadime.com. But they don't want to make them themselves. They want to buy them already pre-made. And I was talking to the school about that. And I said, we could try selling my spices. And they were like, okay. So we did all the spices up, and there were some T-shirts being sold and stuff like that. And this is not my first craft show. 20 years ago, I swore I'd never do a craft show again.
We have her on video.
I have it on video.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to go ahead and try and help out because I think that this would work pretty well. Okay, so after we were done. Now, this was our first time selling spices. So we don't have we sold out, but we don't have our system under perfected or anything like that. So we are going to make less money per hour doing it now. But when I sat down and figured out how much we were making between spices and the shirts, it was between $6 and $10 an hour. By the time you calculated all the hours that the 8 parents who were helping with all of this were working to do this. And I got to thinking, no one would work for $6 an hour now. Nobody would work for $6 an hour. And yet here we are sitting here peddling these things for $6 to $10 an hour. People won't even work for $10 an hour now. And so I was sitting there and I was like, okay, this really isn't worth it. It might be worth it for the spices to see if we get it perfected. We could maybe get it up to $20 to $50 an hour maybe. But then it kind of occurred to me. I was like, wait a minute. The homeschool co-op is needing to do fundraising. And so I talked to the principal and I was like, okay, how much money is needed here? And she was like, well, another $3,000 per student. I was like, okay, so that's basically $300. Well, just for rounding up, say $300 a month. And I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute. We're doing all this for $300 a month per student when the average American's family spends $2,400 a year just eating out alone. I will have to say, I got a little bee in my bonnet after that. And unfortunately, there was a parent meeting on Monday. And I did say something, but I said, you know what? That is $2,400 a year is what the average family eats out. All we need is $300 a month. Why am I sacrificing not eating out? I drive a 20-year-old car with no car payments. I do not really go on vacations. I am sacrificing all these things, and yet I'm sitting here hawking wares to raise money for the co-op while everybody else is going out to eat. They've got car payments and all this kind of stuff. Now, I know there are a few families that truly are, really close to the line, and I get that. But when I said this, there was definitely a hush in the room. And I told Mike, I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I said, I am not going to work for $6 to $10 an hour while no one else is giving up eating out. They're not giving up their new car with car payments. They're not giving up going to concerts. Their kids are in sports to the tune of thousands of dollars a year. And they don't want to give up a measly $300 a month for their child's school.
So instead, they're expecting other people to volunteer
to do it,
to sell the stuff. Yeah, to do it.
And so I got to thinking, you know what? This is why people are poor. We got a comment on Facebook before the show started. And this is exactly what the problem is. And let me see if I can find it. It says, money can only solve some problems, but not all. Inflation is causing a whole host of issues for people. Credit card debt is hurting the middle class to the point they have to use credit cards. They have to use credit card to pay for food and medications, among other things. Most jobs people have can barely help make ends meet. Why? Because you're buying crap all the time. It's your own darn tootin' fault. She says, it's still not enough money in today's society. Yes, I know. I will have people say that, well, if you would just cut down on your spending on frivolous things will help. It's food, medication, and taking care of your kids, not extra expense. It's called necessity. No, it's not. Buying the prepackaged potato chips at the grocery store is not a necessity. Buying potato chips at all is not a necessity. A peanut butter jelly sandwich and an apple is all your kid needs for lunch. You don't have to. She said, I'm tired of people preaching that habits have to change. You can tell Tara got a little bit on, and then I told her, I said, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. People are way better off now than they were 50 years ago. People just don't want to admit it and give up the fun stuff. And she said, if you say so, I just wish you would understand food costs and inflation. I fully understand food costs, and my grocery bill is going down. Chicken is going down. Ground beef and beef is going down. All your prepackaged junk is going up, but that's your own darn tootin' fault for buying it.
Well, I get a little frustrated when it's the old, there's no new, they can't come up with a new argument on their own. It's always, well, it's just harder nowadays, or it's different nowadays, or more things are more expensive nowadays. And I was watching, it's funny she said that, because I was watching All Creatures Great and Small. For you that don't know, it's about a veterinarian in England, right? England, yeah. During like the 1950s, around that time. And it's a story and a show about that. And I was watching the show this past week, and it was about a farmer that had just worked for years in a mine and finally accumulated enough money savings to buy a farm and some cattle to put on the farm. And he just moved in and had been there like a month or something, just a short period of time. And the cattle got sick, all of them, and they all died. And the guy had to give up his dream. They had to sell the farm. They lost everything, just like that. And I was sitting there watching that show when it got done. I thought, you know, if you watch that show, the old one of it, well, the new one's good too, but the old ones really shows more this type of attitude. They didn't have it easy. They lost everything. They had no home insurance. They had no insurance to cover their cattle, their crops. No medical insurance. No medical insurance, nothing like this. And I sit here and I think we have to talk to people day after day whining about how hard it is now for them when they have all this stuff. They have government programs that they can go to. They have food banks they can go to. A lot of people can get a lot of medical taken care of for them. They want their school paid for them. And here was this poor farmer that had worked for years to get his dream and to lose it because it was so hard back then. I get tired of people saying, well, it was so much harder. It's so much harder to get a house now than it used to be years ago. It's not. What people don't understand, up to the first part of the 1900s, if you bought a house, very rarely could you get a loan for it. You'd have to save the money and pay cash. When you finally could start getting a loan in later years, what they did was you had to pay 50% down. 50% down. And yet I hear people griping because they have to put 10% down for a house now. But they had to pay 50% down, and then it was something like 5 years. They had a balloon payment, and they had to finish paying off the whole house. Now, I'm sorry, that was much harder to do. Can you imagine having to put 50% down on your house right now and in 5 years paying the whole thing off? So I get it very hot under the collar to keep hearing people whine about how hard nowadays is for them to do things, you know? It's just ridiculous. You don't know what you're talking about when you say these things. And when you say something like that, I'm thinking, it cancels out your whole comment, because that makes me think you don't know what you're talking about on any of it. You're just making excuses for yourself and for other people to make you feel good. That's all it is.
And then you're taking advantage of people because you don't want to sacrifice.
Exactly.
Okay. The man behind the curtain wants to say something, and then I got something else to say.
I was just going to say, because I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, they can't. Oops, I hear a lot of people say, I can't do this because companies are too cheap to give people raises. Something about living wages, or about how in the old days they had it easier because houses were only $30,000, even though their income was like 20 cents an hour. But what I think people don't realize, and if you've said those things, I think you might consider that those are excuses to just say, it's totally out of my control, there's nothing I can do.
Exactly.
So if you say that, what it means is you are choosing to be poor. You're choosing it if you make those excuses. Instead, saying, man, what can I do? How can I do something to make it, instead of everyone else is keeping me down?
Yeah.
And, you know, I notice people do not calculate the cost. They say, I don't have time to cook. So they spend $50, $60 ordering pizza delivered, make $20 an hour. So they work 3.5 hours to pay for a pizza they're going to eat in 15 minutes. And then they sit there and complain that they can't make ends meet. Parents are bailing out their adult kids at a ridiculous rate. I heard today that somebody said that parents are paying on average $1,400 a month to supplement their adult children's incomes, not living with them. That's ridiculous. How many grandparents are babysitting their kids as kids because they can't afford daycare? So the mom has to work, and yet they're eating out. They have cars with car payments. They have their kids in all these activities. They are going on vacation. I'm sorry, you are just using that grandparent. And that grandparent is wrong for saying yes to babysitting those grandkids when your kids are out just blowing money like that. They should, if grandparents are babysitting grandkids so that mom can work, mom and dad need to not have any vacations at all until they get their finances in order. They need to be driving clunkers until their finances are in order. I will tell you, I haven't seen anybody that has truly sacrificed and are truly doing every single thing they can to save money, and they truly have to have the grandparents babysit. I have not seen one person, not one. And people need to, first of all, if you're the one in the position like me volunteering doing this stuff, you need to say, no, I'm not going to do this. If you're not going to sacrifice eating out and pay your $300 for the homeschool co-op that's needed to cover your tuition, I'm not going to sit there for hours on end doing it for you either. I'll cover my portion. I'll earn enough to cover my portion, but I'm not going to do this for everyone else. Yeah. I'm sorry. Now, I will say there are some people who truly, like single moms, or if there's, like disabilities or something like that, I totally understand that. I'm not saying you shouldn't help out with those kinds of situations. But as we all know, that is not the norm.
Well, and even as a single mom, I wouldn't have dreamed of having people pay for my stuff anyway. I mean, I didn't have to have people I would do without to the very ultimate limit that I could do without before I would even dream of having somebody else cover for me. And I see a lot of single moms that don't do that. This is kind of, I don't know if it's not really connected or kind of connected, but as far as like the craft show and things like that, I went to a quilt thing a couple of years ago, and you couldn't bring any drinks in, which is fine. At a quilt show, they don't want people spilling on there, and I understand that. But they had a concession stand, and the drinks, just for a large drink, was $5.
Yeah.
That wasn't even including what you'd pay for a hamburger or a hot dog or whatever to buy lunch there. But do you know what? Almost every single person that I went with to this thing,
Nobody took their lunch.
they
Yeah.
bought their lunch from this concession stand and drinks. I didn't buy anything. I thought I'll use the water fountain before I will pay $5 for a drink. And I did use the water fountain. I didn't need that drink. I was doing fine. And some single moms, see, they wouldn't hesitate in going to the concession stand and paying,
Oh, yeah.
$15 for a lunch.
Or buying dinner because they're too tired.
Yeah, but you sacrifice that type of thing. And people don't understand, well, I shouldn't have to give that all up, but you do. If you're not in a good position where you can pay for this stuff, you shouldn't be buying this stuff. And on her comment, I was wondering about it, and I may have heard it wrong. She said they had to use their credit cards because their credit cards were so maxed out, they had to use their credit cards to pay for that. What were their credit cards maxed out on?
Yeah.
And I found it interesting too. I went to Walmart today. Guess what? They've got down the main aisle because it's April and people are going to start getting tax returns and things like that. Big screen TVs were all down the aisle of Walmart. You know why? Because they know almost everybody's going to take their tax returns and buy furniture and big screen TVs and stereo systems and all these types of things. And this is why Tara gets a little bit miffed, and I get frustrated when we hear these excuses like this. Well, poor little old us, we have to use our credit card to buy groceries.
Well, and then the next thing is, okay, Mom, well, things are so much worse than it was in the past. Don't give me that line of fecal matter. That is a lie straight from the pit of hell. How many people in the 1960s and 70s had a big screen TV?
Mm-hmm.
How many people had 2 cars?
Mm-hmm.
How many people had a house bigger than 1,200 square feet? How many people had their kids in activities up the wazoo?
Oh, yeah.
How many people ate out on a regular basis? I'm talking more than once a month. How about more than once a year?
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do. You are 1,000 times better off now
Yeah.
than people in the 70s. I guarantee it. You just do not want to sacrifice anything because you work hard or whatever. And it's
like when we were first married, and this is, I was going to say that's not very far back, but I guess it is pretty far back. But we were making $268 a month.
And how much was your rent?
And our rent was $100 a month.
So don't give me that line
So
of baloney.
it was almost 50% of our monthly income we were and that was the cheapest thing we could find. It was a trailer house. And we were paying that much for a trailer house to do. And so, when you start saying years ago, it was so much easier. I'm 71. I know what years ago looked like. And trust me, it's nothing. You guys have it so much better now. It's just almost laughable.
Go ahead,
We
send me comments.
We
Mike.
had a little radio we listened to. We didn't have a surround sound system for, stereo system. I mean, how many of you have these fancy, people pay, we just had a little radio, and I just think about, what is it, DVDs? Is that what they listen to now? What music do they listen to now?
Well, now it's like Spotify. It's a subscription every month. They pay $10 a month to listen to it.
We wouldn't dream of paying $10 a month, to pay for something like that. And so we didn't even really pay for, we bought a TV, but you didn't have to pay for TV. And I don't know if people would have paid for TV. You just didn't have the extra money to.
Yeah.
So this is what's frustrating, why we get comments like this over and over again. And, you know, too, about the people say, well, I just don't have enough money, you know, to live off of this or to sacrifice. It's just too hard. And I was listening to a couple that lost all their, they had rental properties or something like that, and mortgages on all these properties, and they lost their business. They lost all these homes that they were renting and all that type of thing. And they had to move down into a tiny house. They just lost everything. They had no income at that point. And somebody asked them, which were you happier in, the little tiny place you lived in, or now that they got moved back into a normal house, which did you like better? And they said, we were just as happy in the little tiny house when we had nothing as when we had the bigger house. We just think we have to have all this stuff to make us happy. And if we don't get it, we're like little spoiled children because we didn't get everything at the toy store that we wanted. And, you know, you want to buy everything from the toy store. Well, I never allowed my kids to buy everything they wanted at the toy store. Well, I deserve it. They may have deserved it, but that doesn't mean they get it, you know?
I never, well, okay, not never, but I mean, I honestly maybe can count on one hand how many times I actually bought my kids a donut or something at the grocery store. I never bought them a toy.
Yeah.
Ever bought them a toy. I never bought them treats for eating while they're going around the store. They just waited until we got home to eat.
Mm-hmm. And before you holler and say, well, that's just horrible and that's cruel, what a cruel mom. Do you know, my kids and my grandkids, they appreciate everything so much more and get so much more excited when they get a gift, because once the kids get so much stuff, it means nothing to them. They get a room full of toys. They probably pick 2 or 3 out that they play with, and they could care less about the rest of it. They have a birthday and they get 30 different presents, you know, from everybody. Mm-hmm. And they'll pick out 1 or 2 and play with it. And after a week, they're not interested in it. My grandkids and kids, they loved everything they got. And they played with everything they got because they appreciated stuff more.
Yeah. And I mean, they did not go and buy huge houses. Now, I know there's going to be people, well, Tara, you have a big house. You're a hypocrite. No, my bills are paid.
Yeah.
My mother is not babysitting my children so I can work. I'm not going out to eat and then expecting other people to pay my bills.
She's not using her credit card to pay for her groceries and to pay for her stuff.
I don't have student loans. I don't have car debt. So I chose to be rich instead of throwing all my money away on all this junk that we don't need.
Well, I saw a thing in Kansas one time where they were showing this poor mom with like about 3 kids living in a trailer house, and how she was on welfare and she could hardly make ends meet and everything. And they were showing, she said, yeah, some days it's just so hard for me to even know what's going to happen from one day to the next. And we just have to do without so much. And in the background, she had 2 liters of pop, large bags of name brand potato chips. She had packages of cookies all on the countertop.
Yep.
Stuff like that was sitting around the whole trailer.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't go on welfare. And we didn't have things like that. And she was griping about how they couldn't have anything.
Yeah.
And yet there was all this stuff in the background that I would never have dreamed taking the money to buy.
Mike, tell them the story on the medical when you and Stacy went to go film at the house because Americans all have to have medical care for everyone.
Yeah, I worked for PBS, and we were doing a show on health, the doctor. And another person came to be a producer on the show, and she was from Canada, and her big mission was we need to have the whole healthcare system to be free. And so she was trying to illustrate that people are dying in the streets everywhere because healthcare in the U.S. is so bad. But we would go out to places, and she found out we couldn't find anybody who had been actually denied care. And the other thing is that she said, I'm really having a hard time getting shots where you can't see the big screen TV and the 3 new trucks and
500
all
DVDs.
the DVD collection and everything. And so she struggled with that idea. And I said, hey, if that's what you think, why are you promoting that so hard? And she said, well, I just can't bear the thought that somebody somewhere might not be covered.
So here's the thing. It's not that you can't afford these things. It's that you don't want to because you want the other stuff instead. And Melinda said, one thing is so much better now. Thrift stores, garage sales, etc. Someone didn't give you something you just did without.
Mm-hmm.
You can get stuff so much cheaper now,
Mm-hmm.
1,000 times cheaper than you ever did in the 70s. They had thrift stores and garage sales, but they were not like they are today.
We barely had any garage sales at
They
all
were
in the early
not like
70s.
they are
Yeah,
today.
and it's not.
You can get 95% of the things you need for your household and your family used for a fraction of the price new. But people choose not to do that.
Well, and another thing too, thrift stores, you would have a few, maybe one in town for a thrift store or two at the most. Most towns have at least, a couple of thrift stores. But what I find interesting, I used to think, why didn't they have more thrift stores back then compared to now? And it finally dawned on me the other day why that was people used all their stuff up to the point that they weren't usable anymore.
Yeah.
Where nowadays, do you know how many people just use stuff and they buy it new and they take stuff to the thrift store? So much so that the thrift stores are actually asking people not to donate anymore.
Yeah.
That's how much stuff people are buying and spending their money on these things. They get an outfit, it didn't look right after they got it home. They just sent it to the thrift store. This pair of shoes, well, it wasn't quite totally comfortable. They send it to the thrift store. Or they just want something new for this season, or they just didn't like the color of this, whatever. And they can't even handle the amount of stuff, the thrift stores can't, that people are, getting rid of. Now that to me says it all. That really says it all.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get into questions now because I could just keep going on and on. I probably will. Our Dining Iodine Cookbooks, guys, 25% off right now. Help you save money to cook at home with easy recipes, super easy recipes, and our gluten-free, dairy-free edition. Also, for those of you who are like me.
One more thing before you start on the questions that I found kind of amazing was Tara was the only one that bought lunch or brought her lunch with her.
Out of 8 people.
Yeah. And I don't know, probably $10, would you say, is what most people would
probably
about average,
I don't know what these people spend.
But that's usually what it is, about $10. And they couldn't afford a second booth, but between what they spent on their food, they could have paid for the whole booth and then some.
Yeah.
So what she's trying to say is, think about how you're really spending this money. You can't afford to get the extra booths, but you can afford to get you a lunch from the concession stand instead of.
And as someone who is frugal, and most of you guys are, I want you guys to know you are correct in not supporting these people.
Yeah.
I
Don't
am
feel
not
bad
in
or
the
guilty
wrong
about
for
it, yeah.
saying, no, I'm not going to volunteer. Here's my $300 a month. I'm not going to volunteer. I don't want to hear anything about any fundraisers, nothing. I'm not doing it. Here's my money, and I'm done with it. I am sacrificing not eating out 5-6 times a week. I am not driving a car with a car payment. I am not going on vacations. So I can pay for this. So I'm not going to do that. And as parents and grandparents, you need to be okay standing up and saying, no, I choose to live differently so that I can pay for my child's education. And I'm not going to pay for yours because you do not want to sacrifice anything.
See, the same 5 to 10 people are volunteering each time too for these things, probably. And all the rest of them are taking advantage of what they're getting at the fundraiser to help
Yeah.
out with their kids and stuff. And they're still going out to eat, is what Tara's saying, and
Yeah.
that type of thing. So
All right, Lisa, I get my glasses at Zenni, Zenni optical.com. These glasses cost me $70. I got an estimate from the eye doctor the other day because I wasn't sure if they were made correctly, and it would be $1,000.
the same glasses would be
Same
$1,000.
same exact glasses. Angel on a mission. We're struggling. People are struggling because they're not willing to sacrifice.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what it boils down to. Barbara loves our garage sale finds. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys are enjoying that. Deely, do you have an apple spice blend? No, not right now. They're mostly dip mixes right now. Sarah, I bought a townhouse. It's going to be building it. Would it be better to split the payment in half and pay every 2 weeks versus month? So yes, it really is. You will cut off, huh?
Because you pay half of it.
Yeah, you will. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's something like for every 15 months or something, you cut off one payment or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but yes, it does pay it off quicker, but I don't know the exact numbers on how fast it would pay it off. Yes, guys, Mike is very well mended from his knee surgery. I was very much dreading it. The last time did not go well. So this time I was not looking forward to it. And he walked out without crutches. He's been to the gym 2 days now. So he is up and going, and it is time to get some projects done. Oh. I'm only kidding.
You just got a twinge, didn't you, Michael? Your leg's hurting you again now, huh?
Connie, hello in South Dakota, our neighbor. Cheryl, I truly love your honesty and your go get 'em attitude. Yeah. Thank you. Not everyone appreciates it. Leslie, I'm so jealous of the garage sales and flea markets you guys go to. Listen, it is different in every city we have lived in. You know, in Colorado, the garage sales stunk. They were awful. But a viewer came to visit us from Maryland, and she was like, these are the best garage sales ever. And I'm like, if you think these are good. Here in Wyoming, the garage sales are great. Compared to Colorado, they are 1,000 times better.
They weren't good in Kansas.
Yeah.
So compared to Kansas, and Colorado was better than Kansas. So it just
some places, but Colorado had really good thrift stores. So
yeah, in Kansas we had a good thrift store too. So
Sandra says most people do not eat or reinvent their leftovers. Yeah.
That's a big thing. 50% of your groceries is thrown away because you don't reinvent your leftovers and reuse them.
Laura says, you're so right, Tara. I'm so sick of people who don't understand living within their means. It's possible. Yes. Mm-hmm. Hello from Holland,
It's almost like a new mentality, an acceptable mentality. And everybody's just going along with it. Yeah. You know.
Mike sent me the next batch. Vicky says, 1986, my husband and I purchased our first home, 3-bed, 2-bath for $48,000, but the interest was 18%. And minimum wage was like $3. This chaps my hide. Oh, every single time I see a meme where it says, let's bring back the prices in 1979 with 98-cent hamburgers and 49-cent fries. Yes, and $3 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah, see, people don't. She's right. Look at.
Yeah, and only getting gas on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Mike said. He's right.
Uh-huh. And this is a perfect example, what she just did in her comment, that, you know, things were not easy back then.
I'm going to start stupid memes YouTube thing and start commenting on it. It is so ridiculous.
Well, the thing is, this is part of what's happening, though. People are not thinking and sitting and figuring this stuff out. They don't think, well, yeah, you can get hamburgers for 25 cents back then, but you got nothing for wages.
Yeah.
Why people cannot use their brain and use common sense to think this through. And that's what's happening with all of this stuff. With their money, people are not using their brain to figure out the stuff with their money.
Holy cow. Jen says, my neighbors who don't work and are more than capable because they party all week, have 2 kids, come ask us for money for food, but just got their no work kid tax refund and are putting in a pool.
Oh my goodness. I can see the steam coming out of your ears and I don't blame you.
Oh my goodness. Marty says most people do not have their priorities or common sense.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
They don't.
Vicki says, I know friends who are getting paid to babysit their grandchildren. That's fine, I guess. But the problem with babysitting grandchildren is we had a comment, well, some daycares are just not safe for kids. Then you need to stay home and raise your children yourself. I'm sorry. I get there are single moms and that type of thing who may not be able to.
That's a different story. We're talking about normal.
We are talking about normal two-parent families. We had a family member whose child was in daycare, ended up on the news because it was so horrific what was happening at this daycare. And what do? Turn around and put them in another daycare. I'm sorry. You cannot complain about having a bad daycare if you're not going to stay at home and raise your kids. Don't have kids if you don't want to raise them. I know that's harsh. I know that's tough, but that's what it boils down to.
Don't say it's not doable, because there's a lot of single moms out there that are doing it. They're proof. I never had a double two income. All the times from the time I left home in high school and got married, I have never had a double income, lived off a double income, only one income. And you can do it. You can do it. And I've been debt free. I was thinking today, I've been debt free since I was in about my middle 30s or so. I have been debt free. I'm 71 now, except for a couple of years when I moved from Idaho and I lost 50% of my house, of what I paid for my house. And I had to take a mortgage out for just a couple of years, and I paid it off right away. Other than that, I have not had any debt. And so I've been one income all these years. And I'm living nowadays. I'm living in this time period, and I'm managing just fine, just the same way I did 50 years ago. And I've noticed no difference, none whatsoever. Why? Because I've used common sense. I figured my money. I was careful with my money. I didn't let my money control me. I controlled my money. And that's what's happening. Your whole life is out of control, your money and everything else.
And it's your own darn tune fault.
Well, yeah, because you're not taking care of it, and you're just making these excuses, and you hear everybody else making the excuses. So you think, well, I can use these same excuses. It's not me. Everybody else is having the same problem. No, just because everybody else is going down, jumping off the cliff doesn't mean that you should.
Robin says, I had someone gripe that the food bank they went to does not give out meat. She said, what? So it's free and you're mad? That's why I refuse to have anything to do with food banks or donate to food banks or anything like that.
Because this is the type of person that goes there, is the ones that gripe about it, or they really don't need it. There's other people that are desperate, more
Glenda
desperate.
says, I didn't have the money. If you don't have it, you don't spend it.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's where the credit card stuff comes in. You don't even know what you're spending half the time. You just pull that credit card out. Before credit cards came out, people had to live off of the cash they had on hand. If you didn't have it, you didn't buy it.
Yep. Heather, do you think it's okay for your mortgage to be more than 25% of your monthly income? Yes, I have had my mortgage be 50% of my income, and we made it just fine. But like I said, we had no student loans. We had no car payments. We did not eat out. Our kids were not in any activities. We did not go on vacations. And so because we did not have any of those things, we were able to afford 50% of our income to go to our mortgage until we could get our income higher. So, I mean, I think it's fine if you can make it work. I don't have a problem with that. Sandra says, before the internet was big, I had a list in my van with free activities to do with the kids, and we packed our own lunch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many people do not pack their own lunches now? I mean, you very, very rarely see it now. And we never went anywhere. We never ate out. Every car trip, grandma and mom packed all of the food we were eating for the entire car trip. If we would go on a day trip with grandma into the mountains or whatever, we always packed our lunches. We never, ever, ever. I remember, like, we would go to Estes Park and have a fun day. We never, ever as a kid got an ice cream cone, ever. And how many people, almost every single person on the streets of Estes Park now, it's a tourist town in Colorado, is holding an ice cream or fudge
drink
or caramel apple or whatever.
Or sacks from these bakeries and all this stuff like that.
Yeah. Tana says, watch Wartime Farm on YouTube. Shows what farm life and rural life was like during the Great Depression. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, I had grandparents. I had 11 grandparents when I was born. And so I was fortunate enough that I actually heard firsthand stories from my great-grandparents about what the Depression was like. So I know what it's like. And my grandmother that's still alive, she lived through that. And so I know what it's like. But people have had it so easy for the last 70 years. They frankly don't even know what it's like to really have true financial hardships. Because let me tell you, if you think this is financial hardships, you got another thing coming to you when we really start having major problems. This is nothing.
And it sounds like we're hollering at you, but we're trying to help you, because when this stuff hits, when they change the banks over to and get rid of cash, and you've got all this debt, you're going to have problems, because you can get by with a lot of stuff now. But once the banks control your money, if you can't make your payments, you'll lose stuff. They won't hesitate in coming and taking these things away from you. You need to get that debt under control, because you're going to be in a mess. And if you can't learn to live off a certain, in certain ways, you're going to really have trouble. So we're trying hard to help you here, so it won't get even worse, later on.
Sherry says a lot of parents are enablers to their children. Then they want to complain about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now that's really good.
That's why I've started getting onto the parents now, because the parents will comment to me and say, what should I do? Because my kids are doing this. And the parents have a kind of poor little old me, they're taking what it's so awful. And I'm sorry, parents, you raised them. You're allowing them to do this now. I'm afraid it's all on you.
Yep.
They're only getting by with what you're letting them get by with.
Yep. So a lot of, okay, Lori, so what advice can you give young people right now out of high school? Don't go into debt, including going to college.
Yeah.
Do not, if you are smart enough to go to college, you're smart enough to get in without going into debt, period. You can get scholarships, you can get grants, or you can work and pay as you go.
Just take a few classes at a time and just
if it
work
takes
in
you
between.
8 years to get a 4-year degree instead of 4 years to get that same degree, and then you have debt for the next 30 years, which is better.
Yeah.
Sorry, 8 years paying for it as you go is a whole lot better and a whole lot cheaper.
But universities and that don't want you to know that. Why? Because they're making the money off of you.
Yep.
And they've got parents duped and kids duped. They come to the schools.
They got the parents duped.
Yeah, and they come to the school and they encourage the kids, you've got to get this good education so you can get a good job and you can get lots of money. The good jobs, they don't get them half the time. As a matter of fact, last I read, it was like 87-90% of the people that graduate don't use that degree, or they can't find a job that they got the degree for.
Yep. Tana says, we don't buy cookies, we make Tara's brownies in Dining on a Dime Volume 1, 25% off right now, the best brownies in the entire world. Linda says, I'm laughing because in 1967, hubby and I were really starving. We had no money. We couldn't get credit. They wouldn't give it to you. Now, anyone can get credit. You can get it now and pay for it later. We couldn't get a washer dryer. We didn't have any credit because we were newlyweds. We had to build it up. Yeah, and you know what? Mike and I, you guys have heard this story 1,000 times, but when we were first married, when we moved to Idaho, we did not have a refrigerator. We stored our food in a cooler in the garage, and because it was winter, and we stored it in the garage. One time, a cat got in there and ate part of our round steak. Well, I cut off the cat eating part, and we ate the rest. You are not going to get any sympathy or any excuses are going to go over with us. Pretty much none. Now, we know that there is the exception occasionally with disability, huge medical problems, something like that. We totally understand that. But
those are really
the small exceptions. Small exceptions. Sarah, so it's true what you say. I'll tell people again, my friend in Canada does. He buys coffee from Tim Hortons once in the morning and once in the afternoon. $1.65 plus $1.65 is $3.30 times 7, $23 a week, $1,200 a year.
For coffee.
And they can't come up with $1,000 for a savings for emergencies. I'm sorry. People say, well, it's only $2. No, it's not only $2. It's $1,000. You're just not adding it up.
Yeah. That's why I say you need to watch your money, control it, look at it, add this stuff up.
Michelle says, we never saw movies, or if we did, we went to the dollar movie. Yep. Same thing. Ginger says, single moms insist on having their nails done and expensive hair extensions. Listen, don't even get me on the single mom.
I can talk about it because I was a single mom. So I have every right to have diamond studs in their earrings. You know, here I've got my shiny, these aren't diamonds, guys. I paid 45 cents for these. But, you know, go get their hair done all the time. They'd go out.
Eat out because they're too tired.
They would go to the bar on the Friday night, you know, because they needed to get away for a while. And they would spend money on drinks and things like that. And it's just, don't get us started on that.
Sarah, me, I'm completely different. I like to live like I'm poor, work one day, overtime a week, and I'm putting 20% on my townhouse. There you go.
Very good. Exactly.
Carol Ann says any refund I get goes towards paying my taxes and insurance. Yep.
And I want to say this. I did this for years too, like what they're talking about. I did without. I worked hard, long, hard hours. And now I'm 71, and for the past, I don't know, not maybe 5 years or so, maybe a little bit, I'm comfortable. I can relax. I don't have a whole lot, but I don't need anything. I've got no debt. I've got my house paid off. So I'm reaping what I sowed years ago. And there's a lot of people that come on and say, well, I just don't know how I'm going to live off of this and this and this. And they're my age. I'm sorry. I worked hard for many years, and now I'm reaping what I sowed. And a lot of people I know that was my same age were spending their money on all kinds of crazy things. And, you know.
Yep. Jennifer says our entire refund is going to paying down our debt. Yes.
Yes.
That's what
Very
we
good.
did. We never, ever, ever spent a tax refund on anything fun ever. It was to buy a car. It was to fix the heater. It was always something, but not one tax refund ever went to anything
buy a car
fun.
Because you didn't have a car.
Because we actually had smashed it the month before and needed
not
to
like they went out and bought a brand new car with it.
Yeah. So Carol Ann says, you're so right. Big screen TV and eating out as a kid. Eating out to us was going to grandma's or the neighbors. I know. Kimberly says, raised on Burger Helper and canned ravioli. There you go. My parents were house poor. We didn't have any furniture or carpet. We did have the car. My mom worked third shift and dad worked during the day. Yeah.
You know what I had? They go out and buy furniture now. It's so funny. They buy new furniture. Our first chair that we had, or couch, like it was a love seat. It was an antique Victorian love seat with wooden legs and everything. And my husband took piano tubing and wrapped it around it to keep it held together, because if he didn't do that, when you sat on it, it would just collapse. You know, that's what we had for furniture.
Yep. Let's see. Sarah says, I watch live webcams that have at the Virginia Beach instead of going and spending money. There you go. She feels like she's there. Sheldon says the 70s weren't hard. Both my daughter and I had major surgery without health insurance, but because we believed in saving money, we were able to pay cash. Yep. Very good. Barbara, did we know that Pastor Charles Stanley died? Yes.
Yes.
We did. We were very sad about that.
Yeah.
He is very good. It's like, seems like the last of them. There's a few pastors now that are coming up like Jack Hibbs, but seems like the last of the really good pastors are starting to go now. Wanda, I live in an older mobile home that needs work, and I hate the kitchen, but it's the cheapest I could get now. Yeah.
And so you make do. Yeah.
And when I did stuff like that, everything came from freebies or the Restore or garage sales or something like that when I did it. And we did all the work ourselves.
And you know what? That sounds like a horrible thing maybe to some people to have to live like that. But I've noticed when people have to do things like that, you have more confidence, better self-esteem, and you're not quite as fearful because you know you can make it through hard things. That's why so many people are so afraid now. What are they going to do if they don't have credit cards, you know, or what stuff like that? People don't have any skills anymore, and they don't have the confidence or self-esteem.
Nope. Kimmy from She's on Her Apron, hello friend, says, We're sacrificing a lot right now to get our future property at home. Yes, and she just sacrificed a lot to pay off medical bills that insurance refused to cover. And so it can be done. And Kimmy is the absolute proof now that it can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wanda says, I miss the VCR days when you could tape the shows. Yes, totally agree.
Oh, I do too. I miss my VCR so much.
Yep. Vicky says, I have 6 kids, never had a tantrum or demanding of anything. They might have said, is this on sale, Mom, or do you have a coupon for this? Exactly. My kids never, and I mean never one time, threw a tantrum in the store for getting something, ever.
Yeah.
They just knew it was not going to happen. Now, they might have cried because, like when they were babies or
Like
whatever.
2 or something and
But
didn't
not-
understand yet.
But not toddlers and up begging for stuff. I never.
And you know
put up
what's
with
going to
that.
happen? Those same kids, like her kids, they're going to grow up and they're going to be responsible. They're not going to expect mom and dad to take care of them because
No.
they were taught from the time that they were little, they didn't get to have everything. And they won't be demanding like, well, why can't I get my big screen TV or go out for coffee all the time or whatever.
Kimmy also says, how else are we supposed to teach our kids self-control patience? They'll survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Me and Mike sent me the next. It's to 12 says in 1972, I made $50. My husband, $75 a week. And we owned our house and 2 babies at the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Elizabeth, my family loves your family loves you 2 ladies. Do you love us, dear?
No.
I see it when I see your children peeking in from time to time. You raise great kids. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. They may not agree with you at all times, but thank you. Marty, what is a trailer house? It's a mobile home.
Mobile home.
Yeah. Becky Ann, I had 1 TV, 1 telephone hanging on the wall. 3 brothers slept in 1 room until they moved out. 1 radio, no air conditioning. We all lived just fine. 6 people in a small house.
You actually survived, didn't you? Probably even better.
Life with Linda, I paid off 1 more debt this month. Now only 1 more debt to go to be debt free.
Very good. Yeah.
Christy, oh, don't get me started on this one either. Christy told me Christy says a friend told me her cable bill was $200 and would take most of her part-time check. That makes me want to physically throw up. To be working that hard for cable? Are you kidding me? This shows you how screwed up people are nowadays.
Their thinking just isn't quite
I'm
there.
sorry. There is no way I would take half of my part-time job or most of my part-time paycheck. Most of her part-time. So she is working 20 hours a week to pay for cable. That's ridiculous.
She's working part-time, so
that means probably one
she's
week,
worked 20
one
hours a week.
paycheck a week or 1 paycheck a month, probably, I would assume.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Might
Pays
be
for
more.
cable. I cannot imagine working an entire week just to pay for cable. I just can't fathom that. Angel and Miss, and then they complain how they have no money. I will be honest. After this weekend, and then Mike sending me this video, which we may or may not do a show on how people make $100,000 to $300,000 a year and they can't pay their bills. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And when I saw that, I was like, I'm not sure there's any hope.
I know.
I really do not know if there is any hope.
Except what I want to say is we have so many viewers, like the comment we just got a couple comments ago, that are really working hard and paying off their debt.
But are they already doing that? Are we actually changing anybody's?
I think a lot of people have said since they started watching us, they've been doing it. And so that's why I get encouraged when you guys tell us,
I do, yeah.
how they're, and so that's the only thing I figure if there's just a handful of you that we help, it's maybe worth
I
it.
guess.
You know,
maybe
it
when
really
I'm
is worth
dead,
it.
people will watch me and then they'll say, "Oh, I get it, Tara."
But you know, that does encourage, because we get a lot of you letting us know, and I appreciate you letting us know that you are paying off your debt, and it has helped. And some people have said, I started listening to you 5 years ago and I got our debt paid off, and then my husband lost his job, and we were able to make it through because we'd listened to you and paid off our debt. So, you know, I have to say, I think it is.
I'll tell
doing
you, the
something.
pastor at the church asked Mike and I to do a finance class, and I told him no. I said, people don't want to actually do what it takes to get out of debt.
Because probably about what?
I would say
Almost 50%
at
of,
least.
yeah, that do listen to us don't do it. So
Yeah.
that's why it gets kind of discouraging. But we do have so many more than.
Angel says people pay ridiculous amounts nowadays on kids' birthday parties. Oh my goodness,
Oh.
don't get me started on that one either.
They have dog birthday parties. That's what really blows my mind.
Or gender reveal parties. Oh my goodness. Since when do you need to have a $2,000, $3,000 party to announce that you're having a boy or a girl? How absolutely ridiculous. And then they're in debt up their eyeballs, and then mom's having to work, and they have this baby and they throw it straight into daycare. Just saying.
You can
Just
tell
saying.
the weekend kind of flipped Tara's mind this weekend.
Prairie says we got toys only at Christmas and birthdays. My kid too. Or if we bought it ourselves. Yes, my kids too. She started babysitting at 12, and now I can't leave a child home alone under 14. I know.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Joy, I agree to what you both are saying. Do you really want to live different? I'm not sure. Yeah, that's just it. People don't want to live different.
They don't.
But
they want to have everything and not change anything, but they want more money.
But my whole point of this video is to tell you, number one, add up and make sure the things that you're actually doing are worth your time and money. And secondly, if you are a frugal person and you already do these things, it is okay to say no to all this ridiculous stuff. We say yes to about 2 birthday parties a year for my kids, and that's it. This going to 15, 20 birthday parties for every single kid in the class is absolutely ridiculous. There's no way I'm spending $300 to $500 a year on birthday presents for kids that aren't even mine. I don't spend that much on my kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Grandma says declutter your home and it will feel bigger. Yes. Yep. Okay. I don't know how to say your name. So our Amsterdam, or was she in Amsterdam? I don't know. Our Amsterdam friend says, is it an American thing not wanting to cook from scratch or rather eat out? American expats I know here hire me to cook for them. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big American thing now. That's why we keep pushing our cookbooks, because it's not hard. And what's happened is all these moms threw their kids into daycare in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and now they don't know how to cook.
They just work
So
all
they
day.
just
They're
go out to
tired
eat.
and they just go out to eat. It's easier when you drive home. You go by through all these fast foods or even restaurants. Although a lot of them just go to regular sit-down restaurants. Even.
How many people
Well, I was wondering back when we were kids in the 70s, everybody didn't think they could eat out all the time. Like people just didn't go out as much because they didn't have the money.
Well, I was going to say, you didn't
do
credit cards. They didn't take credit cards back then. So you had to pay cash. If you didn't have the cash, you couldn't go out to eat. Well, now.
And grocery stores didn't take credit cards either.
Yeah, no. So you just had to, but nowadays you just take your credit card. So it's so simple to go out to eat compared to cooking.
Una says, how do you stay committed to frugal living? Do you have a savings goals? Is it your faith? Love your commitment. Grateful for your teaching. So for me, I just refuse to be in debt.
Well, for me, it feels so good to be out of debt. My husband, when he left me with 2 kids by myself and tens of thousands of dollars of debt. And once I paid that off, I tell you guys this all the time. For those of you that are totally debt free, it's hard to explain, or pop on there and let us know how good it feels. You can't describe that feeling once you're totally debt free. Because I've had people say, well, what if I fall back into getting into debt again? But it's so rare. I don't know if I've ever even had anybody say they've fallen back into debt again for just spending, not, I mean, other than extreme medical conditions or something like that,
Mhm.
but they stay out of debt. They do everything to stay out of debt because the feeling, no stress, don't have stress the same way. I mean, things will come up once in a while, but it's so relaxing not to have that debt.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me out of debt. I just kill myself trying not to go into debt.
Alicia, thank you for the super chat. She
Oh,
says,
thank you.
when I shop, I have tar in my head. Do you need this? Thanks for all you do. You're welcome.
Oh, that's sweet. You guys are so sweet.
I'm afraid I'm going to tick everybody in my town off at us. We're not going to have anybody speaking to us. Arnesia, I started a new job once. The very first day I was hit with, oh, you have to join our birthday club. It's $15 a month. Let's just say this new girl was not too popular.
Yeah.
You never did
but
that.
You know, I had the same thing when I started working after my husband left, and the gals wanted me to go out to lunch with them all the time. And I just had to say no. And people finally accepted it, you know, and if you feel confident about saying no, then and
I will say that up until the last 2 years, I have never volunteered for. When my kids started kindergarten, I was like, we are not doing any fundraisers, period. The public schools have plenty of money. They do not need fundraisers. They need to reorganize their finances better and get rid of things like the teachers union. And then all that stuff won't be happening and parents won't have to be doing fundraisers. When I found out in Kansas that 75% of the Kansas state budget went to schooling, 75%. And what did you get for it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so I just said, when my kids first started kindergarten, we are not doing any fundraisers, period. And that was just the rule in our household, and they knew it. And I felt bad for them because they were being pressured at school. But at the same time, I think it kind of helped them stand up a little bit too and say no. So,
well, the same way with people wanting you to donate, you know, at the spur of the moment. I don't donate for something when somebody just says, can you donate to this? You know, I like to check who I'm donating to out and make sure it's a good place to donate. And so I won't do spare of the moment donations.
Yeah. And Annie says, as someone whose son is at end-stage renal disease, oh, I'm so sorry. We have one car, our house is paid, and we have pay for all of his medication, all 3 cookbooks at home, and we do it. I'm sorry. People like that, I have so much respect for people like that, because you know you can do it, and you're not going around whining about how bad it is. You're just doing what you need to do to get done.
There was not one bit of whining undertone in that comment. Nothing. I mean, total respect for the people like that.
Yeah.
And we can tell the difference now. We've been doing this for years, of the people that want, like the first comment you read, that was totally whining, making excuses. Compare that to this comment.
Guys, our cookbooks are 25% off right now. And if you can't afford the cookbooks, because we get all you peddlers books, yes, it's our business. And we help you save money. I guarantee you, the first trip to the grocery store, you will save. Every person does. But if you cannot afford them, we have over 1,500 articles on our website. Free recipes, free tips on how to get out of debt. We have like 1,800 videos on our YouTube channel. Go watch them. Don't be a lazy bum. Go do the work yourself. People refuse. Like, I never buy hardly anything. Like, I don't buy books or anything like that. I go to the library and check them out. I read them online from the library, or I go watch the videos from the author. There are plenty of ways you guys can learn how to do this without having to buy something. K-Mac, single mom here, work from home and homeschool, no debt, and we live below our means.
There you go.
Very good.
See?
What kind of medical do we have? We have Zion Medical Share right now. Fluffy, what is right away? You paid off your mortgage right away. Please define. A year, 2 years when you paid off your mortgage. It was like 3 years or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years.
Yeah, it wasn't
Mhm.
very long.
I had a very small loan.
Yeah,
but I was only living off of between $500 and $600 at that time. And
a month.
A month, yeah. So it took me maybe, a little bit longer than
Yeah.
somebody that had a regular, but I still did it as fast as I could.
Luna says, thank you so much for speaking out about food banks. I always feel guilty for not wanting to donate. No,
Don't feel
I
guilty.
will not donate to food banks. I won't do it. Those are probably one of the, I don't know if it's the top. It's probably not the top, but I would say it is one of the top most
Appropriated?
how do you say that?
Misused.
That is probably one of the top social programs that people use when they don't need it, that there is.
Mhm.
I don't know how else to say that, but Colleen says, no one takes responsibility. My parents were farmers in the 50s and 60s, and we wore homemade clothes and had no running water or electricity. Funny thing is, we didn't know we were poor. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all in the attitude. It really is.
Yep. She's in our apron, says, we gave up our 25th anniversary trip to Hawaii because we felt it wasn't worth the money for now. Thank
Very
goodness
good.
we didn't go
Kimmy.
because I got a stomach bug when we were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Sorry. There you go.
Oh,
You never
dear.
know.
You
So
know,
I guess
now
that's a good thing.
this is kind of off the subject, but when she said she got the stomach bug, so it was good she didn't go, talking about craft shows and stuff, the combination, there was a gal, sometimes craft shows really just don't pay because this gal had worked for months. I watch her on YouTube all the time, and she's been talking about sewing stuff. I mean, she worked so hard for months making things to go to the special craft show, and she'd rented a booth, rented a hotel room to go to this craft show and everything. And 2 days before she got ready to go, she got COVID and she couldn't go. So here, all that work and everything was kind of down the tubes. I felt so bad for her. So, but you gotta keep these things in mind. If this happens, can I afford to lose this stuff?
Well, so tell them your Mary Kay story then.
Well, it's kind of long though.
Well, do the short version.
Well, I always say try to think this money through all the way through. That's what we're not doing, is not thinking things through on it and calculating and figuring. And I sold Mary Kay for a while, and this gal wanted me to sell it. She was trying to recruit me under her. And I said, okay, because it did help my complexion. I had acne really bad. I wanted to do it, but I couldn't afford to buy it. And she said, well, you get it for nothing almost if you will sell it. And so I thought, well, I will. What do I have to do? Well, she said, you've got to buy a kit for $60 some odd, and then you have to buy $100 worth of product. Okay, instead of jumping up right away and say, I'll do it, I said, well, I don't have that kind of money to put into, $160 into doing something like that. She said, well, just use your credit card. And I said, well, no, I can't. And she kept trying to get me. She was nice about it, but she was wanting me to try to figure out how to get into it. And she said, can't you just borrow the money from somebody or something? I said, no. I said, unless I can just go in for nothing, I can't do this. Well, she went, and she finally, after a few weeks, she came up with the ideas because I stuck to my guns and said, I'm not going to do this. She said, I'll pay for your kit, because it was going to help her out, because anything I sold, she got a percentage of. So I'll just give you the kit for nothing. And she said, you don't have to buy the $100 worth of product. You can use off of my shelves and pay me as you can for it. Okay, so I said, all right. So here, first start out of the gate, I didn't have to put any money out to do this, where you weren't supposed to do that. That's not the way they told you to do it. But I went against the grain, and I thought it through, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Well, I started selling the Mary Kay, and I was doing pretty good, but I was trained, and everybody says you have to go to these people's houses, and you have to do a party where you do facials for them, and you need to do 4 a week. Well, I was doing that, but I finally, after like a month, I got to figuring, I felt like I was working myself to death and hardly bringing any money in. So I sat down and put pen to paper and figured out I was spending 8 hours in the car driving to these shows and back and everything for these parties. On top of that, I spent 2 hours packing things up and loading the car. So here I am wasting 10 hours. And they said, but you have to have the parties. And I thought, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I decided, I had a big room in my house that I set up, And I set a table up with all the stuff I needed and everything. And the ladies kept saying, well, I wouldn't mind having a party, but I don't want to have to clean the house. And so in my mind, I started thinking the 10 hours, wasted hours is not working for me. Them having a party is not working for them because they don't want to clean the house. So I started telling people, you can just come to my house and bring your friends and I'll do the facials. I doubled the amount of things I was doing because I was saving 10 hours. I had 10 extra hours to use, and the people were so excited about not having to have the party at their place. So I thought it through, put pen to paper. And so here I was doing even more, going totally against what they said would work. And I was doing totally different things. Finally, it got to the point where I had so many clients that I didn't even have to do facials anymore. And they always said, well, you have to deliver to their places. Well, I was dead center. If you dropped a pin in the center of Wichita, I lived right exactly in the center of Wichita. And there's a main road that everybody drives probably once a day, always across this main road. And I was like 2 blocks from it. Well, I worked with my clients to where they would say, I'll just come. I'm going to go so-and-so today. I'll just come and pick this stuff up for you. So instead of me even wasting my time, more time delivering the products, they started coming and picking the stuff up for me. And when they came to pick it up, they would get there and they'd see all my products on the shelf and they would buy even more than they'd ordered.
Yep.
So this is how I took it step by step, where I wrote down, this is not working. I need to change something and do something different. It was against what everybody else said to do. I didn't go along with the crowd. You have to write the stuff down, the time you're spending doing things. Is this 20-hour-a-week job really working for me and paying for, if I have to pay for childcare, a second car, clothes? Start taking control of your money. That's what I want you to get out of this, is what you wanted to control. Is that what you wanted me to tell about?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know what the question was now that you were.
Well, just to tell you, you've got to figure this stuff out.
Yeah,
And
you have to think this. But each time I kept thinking, something's not working here. So figure out what the problem is and think, is there another way to do it? Even if it goes against what people are saying.
Firefighting Thimble says we would take a package of bologna, loaf of bread, duplex cookies, chips, and a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper if we were lucky, and all store brand. Our best memories are airing on a log in Rocky Mountain National Park, eating our picnics. Us too. We love
those bologna
Indo
sandwich
Valley.
with potato chips and a Pepsi is what we always
The
took.
boys were talking about missing Indo Valley this week, actually. Vicky, my mom grew up very poor, and I remember visiting my grandma who had an outhouse in her backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, no indoor toilet, she says. Catherine,
Yeah.
Where's the best place to buy glasses? Zenni, Zenni, optical.com is where I get mine at. These are supposed to be $700 or $1,000 glasses, and I got them for $70. If you have problems with your glasses, take them to your eye doctor and have them adjust them first. If they still don't work or they're off, they will remake them for you. Marge, I remember very well going to my great-grandparents' house for Sunday supper in the early 80s and hearing stories of the Great Depression. Yep.
Okay, now listen to what everybody's been saying so far, the
Well, all
memories
memories,
that they
yeah.
have. They don't have memories of going to the store and getting the big screen TV or
Yep.
buying all the toys.
Yep.
Listen to their memories.
Yep. Life with Winda. Vocation school is better than college. And Clayton says trade school. Yeah.
Yes, trade schools are great.
I am like so anti-college. It's not even funny. If one of my kids is willing to pay for it themselves, I will not pay for it. But if they want to pay for it themselves, with the exception, we did do college for homeschool classes because we were out of regular curriculum. So we had to do so we did college for homeschool classes. But college majority of time is
I personally think
waste.
before anybody goes to college, to put in a year of trade school. And then if they still want to go to college, then they go out, because they will have a trade then that they could use to help pay for that college. But
Yep.
people never hardly think of doing the trade school first and then going to college for some reason.
Alicia said, sorry she's late. She had to put her son to bed and a bath, but he used his gnome washcloth.
No washcloth. That's
Yes,
cute.
I got the cutest gnome Easter.
I saw that
mugs,
sitting there. That
and
was so
then
cute.
I got my Paris tea. A viewer lives right next to that company's store. So she sent me some Paris tea and some monk fruit. So thank you. I absolutely love that. I hope you got my email. I sent you an email. I hope you got it. Laura, colleges waste a lot of your time and money making you take courses you already took in high school. Yeah, it's just, college is just a money-making scheme now. It has absolutely zero to do with education. Absolutely zero.
Or even getting a good job. Now, if you're going for a doctor or a lawyer, that's kind of the exception, but that's very few and far between.
Paula says jobs that you get from going to trade schools pay just as good. Yep, they do. She's in her apron, Kimmy. I love Tara's tough love. Now, do you really, Kimmy? It's helped me so much. So Monday, Kimmy got a dose of Tara's tough love. She picked the wrong day to call Tara.
Poor Kimmy. But
Poor Kimmy.
That's what good friends are for. That's what poor good friends have to deal with.
She lives in Utah. I live in Wyoming, and I think I kicked her to California. Just saying. Sorry, Kimmy.
Dear. That's funny. But she's still speaking to you. She's still speaking to you.
Barbara, yesterday my daughter and granddaughter went to Huntington Beach thrift store and made out like bandits with new, and I mean new looking clothes and shoes. Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
You can get
our thrift store. Everybody hollers about how great our thrift stores are here. They're cheap, but we really don't have that great of stuff. Like in Colorado, they had much better stuff.
Yeah.
But here it's so much cheaper that it's, it's a trade-off. So some thrift stores have really, really good stuff. We're going to Colorado in a few weeks, and we're going to film a couple when we're down there. So Tanya, I'm hoping to have mortgage paid off next year. You go, girl.
Oh,
that's great. $68,000 all she has left next month.
That is good. I love to hear those mortgage. Now, see, we've had a couple already saying they.
Do we do in-person events? We used to. We don't do now. Because it wasn't worth our time.
Yeah,
so,
it was a lot of work. And
we were so poor. All of our neighbors gave us furniture they didn't need. Yeah, us too. In Colorado, our neighbors knew to ask us first if we wanted something. Because they knew if I saw it sitting on the curb, I'd be pounding on their door saying, "Are you getting rid of that?" Janet, how's the kitchen coming? Oh,
don't mention it tonight.
To the kitchen, I might end up in tears.
Don't talk about the kitchen tonight. She'll explain it when it's all over with.
Let's see. Okay, so the kitchen. So after a huge long delay and hassle with getting the window, we got the window put in Monday. And it's basically not any different than what we had. I mean, it's a little bit different. Mom says the kitchen is brighter. It didn't look that much brighter to me. Maybe just because I've been living with it. But I'll say a little bit more about it in a video, but we will just say that
it was a little disappointing.
A little? I would not use little as the description for that mother. No, it was not a little disappointing. It was, let's just burn the house down disappointing.
You guys know how this is. You had great anticipation for something, and then you get it, and it's not quite what you expected it to be.
Yeah. K-Mac, I hate that some single moms get lumped into those that cannot manage money. It's downright infuriating. Okay, so here's the thing. I totally agree. There are a lot of single moms who are doing great and who are not in that category. I know several personally who are not in that category.
They're doing amazingly well.
They're doing amazing well. They take care of their own business. They eat out, but they pay all their bills.
Mm-hmm.
They do everything. And I am not lumping those moms in that category at all. You guys, there are always exceptions to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
There's always exceptions. Now, we can go through for every rule and list all 20 of them.
Yeah, the problem is what we talk about is the average, is the average person a lot of times. And people then want to come in with the exceptions. But we try to talk about what a lot of them do.
We talk about what the majority of the population does.
Yeah.
Love, joy, peace. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for all your helpful content. I am living on a fixed income and it is very much appreciated. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, the what cake recipe in dining is very similar to my grandma's oatmeal cake. So delicious. The last time I made it, it lasted less than a day. Yeah, most of the desserts, well, actually all the food in our cookbooks, 25% off right now, guys. Never lasts in our house.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Well, they're really most of them are really older recipes, old-fashioned recipes.
Yeah, it's just old-fashioned cooking. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sarah, Jill, you're an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
Love it. Diana, for entertainment, we had friends over and eat dining on a dime, homemade bread, cookies, and pizza, and chilies and soups. And then we play card games. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
So here's something I did realize about the home remodel. So we were waiting because we were going to start trying to invite people from church and the homeschool co-op and stuff over and start like trying to have some friends here. We have friends, but they're almost all of them are from the homeschool co-op. And which for those of you who don't know what that is, it's where parents get together and hire the teachers to homeschool the kids. So it's kind of that's how it works. So anyway, and I got to thinking I did this remodel wrong. I should have been having people over this whole time because then I wouldn't have had to clean the house because I could just say, oh, sorry, I'm remodeling.
Well, yeah.
I totally did.
I know. That's why I remodeled for 25 years. I had so much company all the time that I didn't have to clean the house.
I totally did this wrong. Totally did this wrong. Patricia, if I had come across your show years ago, I would have avoided bankruptcy, but I keep all your tips in my head, so I stay debt-free.
Good.
Start getting credit card applications automatically in the garbage they go.
Yes,
good girl.
very good.
Denise, I have a question. When you have a grown child who has a good job, married, new baby, everything they purchase is expensive and they frankly spend too much money, but still talk to their parents as if they don't have enough money and ask parents to get them out of financial binds. What do your parents say and do? No.
No.
No is a complete sentence.
Yeah. I would never lend any of my kids or my grandkids. And I told them ahead of time, they knew this, that if I give them like the first year or two after they're out on their own working, and I watch how they do. Well, even in high school, I watch how they do their finances then. And if they act very responsible, they're trying very hard, working very hard, and being very, very careful with their money. They're not buying outrageous things. And something comes up and they need help with something, I will give them a small loan. Then I watch how they pay that off to me. If they give up things and pay me off quickly, then if a couple years down the road they need something, then I will. I test them to see, are they going to be responsible? And so far they've all done just great. I haven't really given them any. The most I did was my one grandson. He bought a car from me. And so he faithfully paid me off, and not only just paid me off on the regular payment, he gave me extra, and he was so excited every time he could give me more. And so it's more of an attitude. It's more of a, how responsible are they? If your kids are constantly irresponsible.
Well, okay, let's put it in these terms. If your child was an alcoholic and they came asking you to buy booze, would you keep buying them booze?
Or drugs.
If they were a drug addict, and they kept coming to you asking you to buy drugs, would you buy them drugs? Good. No. That's exactly what you're doing. Is you are enabling them when you give them money and they are perfectly capable. And that's the same thing that's
hurting them.
That's the same thing when grandparents are babysitting kids for free when the parents are out blowing their money.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. You are just enabling them. And a lot of it, this is going to be hard. I don't know if they can handle it. A lot of it is because you don't have enough self-confidence and you need the love from your grandkids or your kids to do this, because you don't have the self-confidence to say, no, I've raised my kids. It's your turn to raise your kids. I have my own life to live now.
And once again, we're not talking about the exceptions to the rule.
Not the exception.
If your children are sick and they need help with their children.
Recently divorced, single mom, something
like that,
we get that. Death in the family, we get a husband.
We're
dies,
talking on a
like
regular
that.
living basis is
normal 2-parent family. And when they're just blowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Shelda, advice for high school kids: get a job and ask for volume 1 for graduation and read the tips.
And now that she mentioned that, we have a lot of young men and a lot of like late teens, early 20s kids that do love our dining. I was so shocked about that. And it makes a great graduation gift or a wedding for bridal showers and stuff.
Bettina, I'm new to your show. Why did you move so much? So job loss. We couldn't afford where we lived. We were moving up in houses. We were moving up in neighborhoods to help family. Twice we moved. So just various reasons. But
And
yeah.
I just moved following my children around where they were moving.
Yep. Vicky says Pastor Jack Hibbs is my go-to. Yes, we love Pastor Jack too.
Yeah, love Pastor
Lorraine,
Jack.
my sons always looked horrified at the tantrums of others in the stores, and then they would pile in each other at home. I know.
Yeah,
get
that's
that.
so true.
Sandra, my broke daughter. Sandra. My broke daughter has a coffee addiction. When I call her on it, she says, "So I can't have anything I enjoy." The mentality of 30 years old. No, you can't. If you're not paying your bills and you're in debt up your eyeballs. No, it's called being an adult.
But that's what's so sad. So many 30s and
Sandra.
under are doing that.
Huh? That's the way I handle my kids. It is. I know. I'm sorry, my children. I'm sorry. Lynn says, I've heard the same thing from people in their 30s about how easy it was for us in the 70s and 80s.
I know.
Yeah, just don't even get me started. And what makes me even more infuriating is people are begging for workers right now.
Yeah.
They are begging for workers all over the place.
But see, that was one thing back in the 70s and 80s and 60s and that. What we did, what they don't think to do now, the kids, I must be really old to call them about the kids, but they work 35 hours a week and they think they're dying. Oh my goodness. And how can I make it? I even have heard a 40-something-year-old say, I had to put in a 60-hour work week for 2 weeks in a row. You thought they were laying on the couch hollering about it. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Back then, what we did was we worked 40 hours. And if we still needed more money, we would get another part-time job or 2 part-time jobs and a full-time job. We just didn't even, that was our mentality. You didn't even think about hollering about how broke you were really, or whine to somebody or expect somebody to take care of you. You just found out another way to get more money in.
Yeah. Beth says, I've moved again because the rent at the last place was getting too high. I'm saving $600 a month.
Very good.
Very good.
See?
I know moving is a pain in the patootie. Believe me, I'm going to die in this house. But sometimes you got to do it.
We tell some people when they holler about how high their rent is and stuff like that, we say, we just have to move or you need to sell your house.
Now we all know, since I just said that, we're going to be moving next year. Ginger, when do you think we'll be a cashless society? Well, I think it's coming quicker than we think, maybe 6 months, a year, but totally cashless, I don't know how long. I don't know. I say 6 months to a year possibly, but I don't know for sure. I really
it's kind of creepy because things are moving so fast now. You can't really judge stuff anymore because it's just like whoosh, happening.
I honestly, after this whole Budweiser thing, and what was the other thing? Oh, and Daystar thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting there and I was just like, I just feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you guys feel like that.
I am just going to shut off everything. Like I don't want to know about anything happening anywhere. I do not care what's going on.
I hate pulling up my YouTube with all the little boxes on it because I was thinking the other day, I can't even scan through to find my quilt things that I want to
anymore.
Watch. It's just every aspect of life is just blaring at you.
Tracy, our daughter took dance. I cleaned the dance studio. My husband did the yard work for the dance studio. We bartered. Very good.
That's a way to do
Very
it.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep. Bartering. It's just something you don't hear about. Exactly. Jennifer, I mentioned this before, but I bought a hand mixture that frosts the cream in my coffee cup. Then I pour in the coffee. I'm so fancy.
That's good. Yeah. But even in those little things, I do everything even in the little things, and that's how I saved.
Tricia says, speaking of Restore Tara, I went the other day to ours for furniture. They didn't have what I was looking for, but what a lot of neat stuff. Yeah. Yep. Sherry says, I've learned a lot to use electric skillet and toaster for baking because of the lower kilowatts. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we're back to the Restore thing. I'm at the point now where today I was texting the manager. Brad and I have a thing going on.
Mike, are you?
And I said, you didn't happen to have any big windows come in, did you? He didn't think so, but I was hoping he might have had some windows come in, but he didn't. Is the big reveal happening for the... Okay, so here's the deal on the kitchen remodel. Okay, since everybody's asking. So we ordered a window. Against my better judgment, I let everyone talk, not Mom, but everyone else, talk me into buying a window that I didn't want. I wanted just a big picture window. I like nature. I like being outside. I could live in a tent the rest of my life and I would be happy. But so I like nature. So I like seeing nature and I like seeing my garden. So I wanted a great big picture window, but everybody kept insisting that I needed ventilation in the kitchen, even though we had a window literally 2 feet away that I could open for ventilation. So I caved. So what happened was now I totally understand this is first world problems. I get that. I am not suggesting that it's not. I totally get that. But there was 3 things when we bought this house that I was not going to compromise on. Trees, quiet, and a bright light house. The last house I had no windows that I could grow plants in, except for one, which was right next to the dining room table, so I couldn't put anything there. This house has no windows on the top floor that I can put any plants on. I can't grow any plants, and I'm a huge gardener. So I wanted a great big picture window. Okay, so I compromised, and all we got was the tree. I didn't get quiet, and I didn't get a bright house when we bought this house. Okay, that's fine. We really like the property, and we do that. We can remodel the kitchen and get what you want. Well, I didn't get what I want. So they brought the window. I was okay. I thought I was okay. They put it in, and basically it's the same as what we had before.
It's almost identical.
It's really no different.
Yeah.
So my disappointment is in the fact that the time, money, and hassle that we put in for this window, that is basically the same thing we had.
Yeah.
We could have taken the same window and just left it in
Yeah,
there and
you
not
wouldn't have
had
had to
any
move
of
it.
this go on.
Mhm.
I mean, it probably cost us $6,000 or $7,000 to do this window that I don't even...
Because of this window, it's extended the remodel too.
Yeah.
For weeks.
And it's put the remodel date out like 6 or 8 weeks that we could have been done with this.
So it wasn't just
And
the
so
window itself.
It was the whole thing of the window. The contractors did a great job putting it in. I have no problem with that or anything. It was just, I should have stood my ground and got what I wanted. Well, so Mike and I went yesterday morning after they got it in, and I came back out of my comatosis. And we went to go order another window. We were just going to eat the money, see if we could sell this one on upcycle because it's not returnable, go get a new one. And it was going to be a minimum of September before it would be in. So we all know it would be November or December before it was in. And I was just like, no, I'm not. I'm done. So that's why I was very disappointed. Hope we could have the kitchen done as soon as the end of next week, but the way things are going, I doubt it. So I'm thinking the middle of May is when we'll be able to start revealing it, maybe. I don't know at this point. So Gina says we are paying cable over $200. So now we have gone cable free for 2 years. Yeah, very good. Okay,
good.
I'm sorry. I'm not criticizing you, but I cannot imagine someone thinking it's okay to pay $200 a month for cable. That was a car payment.
Yeah, and if you've got the money to do it and you have no debt, it's a different story. But if you have financial problems and you don't make that much money, yeah.
Diana, be encouraged. My life is so different from watching you. Well, thank you.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know how it's different, but I'm glad. I hope it's good. What if it's a bad different?
No, it's a
she
good
said
different.
it was different. She didn't say if it was a good
No,
different
I'm sure
or bad
she meant
different.
Good. I'm going the good route.
I don't know the way this week's going. Michelle, my 89-year-old mom pays over $200 for cable. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I just can't see. Now, to her defense, I will say, I don't care what you pay for cable. If your debts are paid off and you're paying all your bills and all of that.
And if she's 89 years old, she's probably not spending her money on a whole lot of anything
let her
else. That's
buy
all
it.
she's got is for entertainment, My mom, if she's not going to be 95 in a couple of weeks, and that's all she does is have the TV.
Yeah.
So so there's certain situations too where you have to.
Tana says younger couples just want everything their parents have now. Yeah,
I know. That's
I know.
really a big thing. They get married or something and they think they should have the same size house, and they go buy brand new furniture. And
everybody's saying they never went out to eat when they were younger. Yep, I totally agree. Tana wants to know if all the snow melted in Sheridan.
No, as a matter of fact, now that you mention it, I was looking out my window. I was so excited. I've seen my grass for the first time since November.
Oh, seriously? It melted?
It melted.
That huge pile?
Yeah, except
Mom's pile was like 4.5 feet high. It was huge.
I would put my windows are
like
really
up
low.
to here to me.
My windows are so low in the living room. They're only about 12 inches from the floor. So I can see out my front windows. And I was sitting there and I was getting to where I couldn't see out the windows because the snow was piling up. Well, I was so excited because it's almost all gone. And I only have a strip that's about 10 feet long and about 2 feet, 18 inches wide.
Oh, what? It's growing now? You got to mow?
No, this is snow. And
I thought
then
your grass was growing underneath it.
No, and I've got it's about 18 inches tall. So I've got a little strip, and I thought it's going to be gone today. It wasn't gone, but then I looked. We're getting snow tonight. I'm thinking, how did this happen? I still am not going to have my yard totally snow free, but it is growing underneath.
But
it's showing.
My lettuce sprouted on the porch.
Oh, it did? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Of course, it's a cold weather crop, but we won't mention it. Darnell says, Darnell Fugate. I have a cousin whose name is Fugate.
Fugate,
yes.
Yeah.
I raised 6 kids, but lived like y'all do. Not above my means, but made sure to have at least $10 a week in savings. Thank God I did. As now, at 75 years old, I'm still sitting good and debt-free.
Very good. Yes.
Carolyn, if you can't afford the books, download the freebies. Yeah, guys.
I know.
We offer free ebooks all the time. Just watch our videos.
And the free stuff on the website. We've got tons of the recipes from there on the website.
Karen, years ago, the place I worked had the United Way. Oh, don't get me started on United Way. Pressure us to donate to them. It was understood that we would donate. Very resentful, as I had already tithed 10%, which went to our church in many ways, helped others. No, I never, ever did anything for United Way. Terry, I think the most important service you two provide is to challenge our mindset, like doing laundry without a washer.
That was quite a day.
Yeah. United Way donates to a lot of places like Planned Parenthood and stuff, and I will not support that. What's funny though is
hear what you said about Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, United Way donates to places like Planned Parenthood, or they used to, and so I won't donate for stuff like that. But what's interesting on the laundry video is that's one of those ones where we figured out the hours and it was not worth it. That video was a huge waste of time for us because nobody wants to know how to do laundry off grid.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
fun.
It was fun.
But for the amount of work that we did, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
And like my 101 Ways to Save Money video that came out last week, total bomb. I am not exaggerating. At least 200. And that does not include filming. 200 hours went into that video.
Yeah.
Total bomb.
It's really interesting what people do and don't like to watch.
Yeah.
And it's hard to.
Iris, I paid my home off in 13 years early.
Very good.
She paid off 13 years early. Yeah, sorry, I read that wrong.
That's good.
K-Max says, your books are great. My teen is a big fan of the Penny Pincher Mama books. She's learned so much. Well, there you go.
Oh,
very
good.
Oh, Donna. Hello, Donna Sinesco.
Oh, hi, Donna.
Hello. Cat lady, don't give up. Some of us are slow learners.
That's good. We love you guys. We really
Crazy
do.
cat. Been listening
You
for
guys are
years.
funny.
Finally about to pay off my first debt. Then working on the next.
Very good.
Kim, I've paid $9,000 towards debt in the last 4 months. Very good. My
You
goal is to have
guys are
everything
unreal.
house paid off by December 2023. Wow.
See, I told you,
Good job.
our viewers are doing good.
Hey, maybe what we need to do is start a YouTube channel where we have people who are paying off their debt saying how they're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
might be
people keep
interesting.
saying, well, I can't do it. I can't do it. And
it.
you guys
To
are perfect
prove you can do it.
proof. that
Why?
you
Because
can.
nobody would click on those videos because they don't
They
think
wouldn't.
that you can do it.
Yeah.
99 says we cut cable in 2015. Our internet bill went $20 too. I have Amazon Prime. I pay for Netflix. Yes. Now we do have Amazon Prime, but we have it for our business. And now that we live in Timbuktu, we really need it for our business because we don't get 2-day shipping anymore. We used to get 2-day shipping. So if we didn't have Prime, it would take weeks to get stuff. And so like when we have sales or something and we run out of tape or whatever, we have it for that. But yeah. So Fluffy says, Jill, didn't you go after child support? No, she did not.
No, I did not. I didn't go after child support because I wanted total custody of the kids. And so, and that, and the main thing was I knew my husband
My dad was a bum
would never pay it. Well, it wasn't that
with finances.
yeah, it's not that he didn't want us to have anything or anything like that, but he just had no control over his finances. And he'd blow it and he'd say, I'm sorry, I just don't have any money this week or whatever. So I knew I'd never get it from him. So I thought, well, since I'm not going to get anything from him anyway, I want
to have asked, but yeah, like
well,
the custody thing.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have worked. And so I just thought I'd rather just get total say so in everything the kids did.
Because, well, and back then you probably could have got custody anyway, but still, yes. I mean, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. So, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
And like a lot of these guys, they just don't get a job because they know their paychecks are going to be garnished. So they just don't get a job to have their paychecks garnished.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan says, it's Mike. It's very inconsiderate and
Jonathan.
irresponsible of you be languishing on some tropical island while Tara and Jill have-
Isn't it? That is no fair. Now that I think about it.
You've been waiting to do that a long time, haven't you?
I just wish I was really there.
Marsha, how much is your limit on car repairs of older cars? So I would say it's not a money limit, it's a mileage limit. I would say once your car gets over 300,000 miles, I would probably not keep fixing things. But nowadays, you can pretty much fix the engine and transmission and keep it going for quite a bit. So unless it's like 2 or 3 times the price of the car, I would say even $4,000 or $5,000 is probably worth it if you don't have to buy a new one.
And one way I figure it too is all of a sudden the car seems like it'll start having everything break.
Yeah.
The alternator will go out or it'll need new this or that, And once I have 2 or 3 things in a row within just a few months' time going out, that kind of is signaling to me that the car is just breaking down. So
Yeah, like with us, if we spent $3,000 on a vehicle and then it needed a new transmission and we said, oh, okay, we'll go ahead and do a new transmission. And then they said, oh, now it needs to do something else at $3,000. Okay, maybe not.
yeah.
Let's see. Diane has 30,000 left on her mortgage. You go. She's almost there. Very good.
Yeah, that's close.
And Shannon, her oven went out. She's been using a toaster oven and she found an oven for $45 this weekend at a yard sale.
You guys are on a roll.
Lynn says, congrats to everyone who paid off their debt.
Yes.
Very good. Cindy says, did you ever buy school pictures or yearbooks? No, did not. Would you avoid a 30-year loan? No, I have a 30-year loan. That's what I get. I know Dave Ramsey says do 15 years. I just get a 30-year loan and then I just pay extra on it every month. Why? Because then you have that lower payment in case you have some emergency happen, like some medical problem or something.
So
I
loses
frankly
a job for a long time.
Now, Dave Ramsey's audience is people who earn $100,000 or more a year. Okay, so you guys need to know that. So he's talking to people who make more money. So when he says that you should get a 15-year loan and it should only be 25% of your income, he's talking to people who have higher incomes. Okay, but if you have a lower income, if you have lower than that, I really don't think it's reasonable to do 15 years. And 25%.
Because you can take and add onto the principal and
Whenever
you
you
can pay
want,
it
yeah.
off in 15 years.
Mhm.
But if you get the 30-year loan, you've got a little cushion there in case an emergency happens. So, if you think you can handle a 15-year-old loan, get a 30 and then just plan on paying it off in the 15.
Our lives start at 430 Mountain, Esther, just so you can know. And her son works in aircraft fabrication and went to trade school. Yep. That's the way to do it.
Those
Yep.
are good. Mm-hmm.
Montana girl, it used to be a status symbol to say your child was in college. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
a lot of that is still carried over, that attitude.
Wanda, what do you do when on a fixed income and bills from so long ago you forgot about them that they pop out wanting payment? Well, you just have to figure out a way to come up with some money. Can you sell something? Can you do some side jobs of something to pay it? Make sure you need to pay all of it. Yeah, make sure you actually have to pay it. If it's that long ago, then why haven't they been on you this whole time? So I would make sure you actually have to pay it. I have no idea what this name is, but I wish more parents would be open to their finances with their children. Yes. Many don't know how to budget. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or they don't teach their kids too how to budget.
Although, love you, my children. We tried to teach some of our kids, and they didn't want to learn it at the time. So,
but really, they do pretty good.
But they are good with their.
They are good with.
I don't know if they're good with their finances, but their finances are under control. Yeah, whatever your definition
is. They don't ask you
support
for
them.
They're
paying
fine
for their own stuff. So, I don't know. But Julie says she loves us, and she's loving the cookbooks. 25% right now. My husband loves our cookbook, even though he went through and picked out recipes for me to make him. Well, there you go. 25% off right now, guys.
That's a good one.
The green one right here is our gluten-free, dairy-free edition if you need it. And Una says, my sister is currently interviewing for her business, and she has shocked me with horror stories about people's lack of interest in actually working. I know. What happened with Daystar?
Oh, we don't want to go there.
Do we want to go there or do we not want to go
there? I
don't
think.
Can you point at this somewhere? Because you brought it up.
Well, okay. I'll give you the short version. I'll just tell you why we have a problem with it, okay? Because these people are in positions of Christian authority.
And a lot more of this stuff is happening. That's why we're just getting frustrated with it.
So, Joni, who's the face of Daystar, is getting married to a guy who is a big Christian counselor. Big Christian married counselor who just announced that he's divorced after 30 years. And now he's marrying Joni.
But he kept it for...
Go ahead.
He kept it for a secret for a year.
It was a secret for a year that he was divorced.
They didn't let anybody know.
And he was still counseling Christians, doing his business, and he was divorced. So first of all, I have a major problem with someone who is a counselor for marriage and they are divorced. It's one thing if you want to go and take a break for 5 or 6 years and then get your life back in order and then go back again. It's another thing to be continuing to be in that position advising people when you don't even have your own marriage under control, or your own marriage is falling apart. Okay. It's like we went to a church one time and the pastor, his wife was having an affair with someone else and he was continuing to be the pastor of the church. That's not okay. He's not at fault. But he shouldn't be the pastor of the church. Okay. Now, this guy that she's marrying that got divorced, maybe his wife had an affair. I don't know the circumstances around that.
So
I'm not judging the validity of her marrying him. If his wife had an affair, they can legitimately get married. Her husband died a couple of years ago. If his wife had an affair, they biblically can do that. It was not said if his wife had an affair or not, which I think when you're an authority, when you're a Christian authority in that position, you could say, well, it's nobody's business. Well, yes, it is. If you are in that position, telling people how to save their marriages, that needs to be known.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Now, so here's our problem with the whole thing. It's not that they're getting married if his wife had an affair. I'm okay with that. That's biblically correct. I have a problem with him staying in a position of authority, counseling Christian couples on how to keep your marriage together and with issues around all those kinds of things when your marriage is not okay.
And I had a little bit of problem with being secretive about it.
Yeah.
That's been the major thing with me, to be secretive. You can't be untruthful with, and that's being deceitful in a way.
Yeah.
It really is. To me, being deceitful is almost worse than lying, because you're giving a totally different spin on something, where lying is just right out there. But the deceitfulness, it feels deceitful kind of. And then the other thing is, they just announced they're going to get married just a
couple
few
of weeks after he announced he was
It
divorced.
wasn't very many weeks after they announced he was divorced, and now they're getting remarried. It seems like there should be an honorable waiting period a little bit. I guess biblically, maybe it doesn't have to be. I don't know. I just think out of respect for his old marriage, and that type of thing, just a little bit of respect.
If his wife had an affair and that's why they got divorced, biblically, it is okay for him to remarry. But it is not okay for him to stay in authority over people, counseling them. And he's a very expensive counselor, so he's doing it for the money. But for him to stay in that position is totally wrong, and then deceive people about his divorce when he's counseling people is
probably,
totally
if
wrong.
People found out, they wouldn't be going to him as much, so he was being deceitful to get the money. Probably. I don't know. That's why we hated to say anything, because we don't really like to. We don't know the circumstances, so we really don't like talking about it that much.
But
so that's why we were hesitating.
As Christians, I'm sorry, it would be like Mike and I and Mom advising you guys on finances, and here we're racking up credit card debt right and left.
Yeah.
And here I'm sitting here telling you, don't go into credit card debt. Stop spending all this money. Stop going out to eat. Well,
and then confess a year later, oh, well, we've got $100,000 worth of debt. That's what it would be like.
I'm like, sorry, I have no position to be telling you how to spend your money if my money is not under control.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Shannon says my daughter's paying for her own college and she appreciates it much more. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Ellen, I found hams yesterday for $1 at Walmart.
Wow.
Very good.
That's good.
Is there any more, Mike? I think so.
Which one did you just read? Oh, there's one more.
Yeah. Tanya says, I'm not a Dave Ramsey fan. I heard him tell a woman who is making $22,000 a year to invest that. It's like she has to eat and pay bills. How's she going to invest the entire earnings? He's out of touch. Yeah. Well, I didn't hear that call, so I don't know the circumstances, but if she's actually only making $22,000 a year, it is not reasonable to be investing money when you're only making $22,000 a year. You have to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's not Jimmy Evans that she is marrying. Tay-Tay. It's not him. Weiss, W-E-I-S-S
or
somebody like that. Something like that. I can't remember. I know who he is, but I just have heard the name. I don't know anything about him. Have I tried hydroponics? No, not on a big scale. I've done it in little like individual cups and stuff, but not on a big scale. I haven't. Montana Girl, I'm reminded of my favorite hymn, A Mighty Fortress, though hordes of devils fill the land, all threatening to devour us. That's how I feel right now. Actually, it is kind of the feeling.
It is. Yeah. I heard something the other day that this pastor was saying, that I forget where I even heard it at, how it's like Satan knows that the end's coming. So he's kind of spewing forth demons out, more so. And it's getting worse and worse because he wants to drag as many of people down. That's the way he can hurt God, is by, hurting people.
What do we think about donating to St. Jude? I don't know anything about their company. I think from the commercials I see, if what they do is true and if that money is actually going to help the kids with cancer, I'm okay with that. But I don't know anything into the details of the financials.
I do St. Jude, because
Okay, yeah.
Huh.
Mike and Mom both said that they researched it and they think it's legit.
Yeah, I
so.
do St. Jude because I like them.
Jody did the out. Oh, my noise. My weird noise. It did come back like several times. So here's what I think it was. It stopped after the snow melted. So what I think was happening was last week a viewer said that, when you pour water on top of ice cubes and it crackles. She said she thinks that it was the water running off from the snow melt hitting the frozen ground, melting a teensy tiny section, and then it was trickling down kind of under the ground, making that weird noise. Now, the only other thing is another viewer said that hers did that and it was a sinkhole later.
There goes your kitchen window for sure. You won't have to worry about the kitchen window anymore.
If I get a sinkhole and it takes out the whole kitchen.
If you get a sinkhole and the kitchen's gone. We shouldn't laugh at that. I know we shouldn't be laughing about that. Oh dear. I got to stop laughing.
Seriously though. But I think it was just the snow melt hitting the frozen underneath ground.
Tara is on a hill type thing, so that wouldn't be too far-fetched. Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
We'll deal with it when it comes. You guys will hear about it when it happens, if we can find the computer.
I have no idea what this name is. I'm so sorry. Inzish. I paid off my car on my birthday on 2/16. I did too much overtime and it was paid off in 11 months. Now I'm paying her student loans. You go.
Very good. You're trying. I can tell. I love it. You guys are really working at this.
Shannon says my husband had a double heart fibrillation due to arterial fib. I have no idea what all that means, but we just paid all the medical bills off this year. Very good. Rose family says, good morning from Japan. Matthew 6:33 has been a big help. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these things shall be added unto you. Yes, that's so true. You are right. And it's not, I don't know. It's just, you can just feel something is going on.
Yeah.
You can just feel it. And so you just know something's going on, and it's the end of the time.
Tara and I talk about sense and stuff all the time. And it's interesting, if I watch other Christians on YouTube or something, that's one of the things that they're all in combination saying, that they can just sense there's a difference in the world.
And Joshua Talk Foods just uploaded a video making one of our recipes. Thank you, Joshua. I'll have to go check it out. I'm subscribed, so it comes up. So I'll have to go. Well, am I still subscribed? I need to make sure I'm still subscribed, actually, because guys, make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube has been unsubscribing people. And I have noticed on some of the channels that I'm subscribed to, it has unsubscribed me. And I did not unsubscribe it. So
make sure.
Yeah. So I know. So I know that. Grandma says, where do they allow for healing from a broken marriage? That's crazy. Well, I mean, he had been divorced for a year. So I would say, okay, that's I would say a couple of years would be better. But like I said, our big thing was him staying in counseling when he was doing this. That's just not okay. And then being deceitful. So I don't know the specifics.
Yeah.
So
and it does depend on the situation, how long. But I think a lot of people remarry too quickly sometimes.
Yeah.
That you need to give yourself time to
Mom's given herself 40 years.
That's so funny. But you need to give yourself, I always say, people will be in a marriage for like 15 years and then they only take 6 months to try to fix it. And they've been destroying it for 15 years. And that's all the time they take to try to fix it. It doesn't work that way. And so I think a year to 2, I think 2 years is a better time.
At least, yeah.
Because even like if you're a widow or something, you have to get over the grieving. There's so many heavy emotions and it takes a while it's like healing your body. Some things are so serious when you hurt your body. It takes a long time for that body to heal. And people don't realize their emotions need to heal too. Yeah. And I think too many people jump from one thing to the next, from the frying pan into the fire before they, allow themselves a good healing time before they get more settled.
Mm-hmm. Susan says, Jill, I saw a guy staying close to you on your heels at the flea market. I think he was interested in you.
It was probably our camera guy who's about
I don't
20
know.
years
Several
old.
people mentioned that, and I did not
I
notice
didn't
who
notice
it was.
either.
I was looking
I
for
was gonna say,
deals, not mama husband,
except
so I don't know.
Some of the guys there, I'm not so sure I want them,
Now they may be bailing you out of the ditch one of these days, and then you'll find a husband. Just saying. Okay, let's see. What else?
You guys would just die if I came up with a boyfriend, wouldn't you?
Mom, you just go for it.
I could just see my kids and what was it? It seemed like one of the grandkids said, "Oh, Nan, I can't even imagine," or something. I would just love to do it out of honoriness sometime.
You go right
Maybe
in.
I could rent a boyfriend and show up with him.
You have fun with her.
Or show up with him on Christmas or something.
Amazing Grace says, then we'll have an outdoor kitchen for free.
Yeah.
Except it ain't free. There's a boatload of money.
That's good. You
I'm
guys
actually
are funny.
doing a specific video on how much the kitchen remodel cost us. Because I think I'll make back the kitchen remodel money with that video. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Huh? We'll be a warning to others.
You keep being a warning to others, don't you?
And then, do we unplug our appliances or do special light bulbs? I don't unplug appliances. We do have LED light bulbs, though. And we cut our electric bill went down $40 a month when we changed to LEDs. So that has helped us. German says $2,500 a year for eating out is pretty low to me. Yes, that is the low end of eating out. Mm-hmm. I know full good and well the majority of Americans eat out more than $300 a month.
And further down, German Garden has a follow-up. That's exactly the point you were trying to make today.
Let's see. She says, or he says, I don't know, before I buy anything, I think about how many hours I have to work for it. It's a simple rule that really curbs my impulse buying. Yes, that is how we have gotten rich.
Our preaches that all the time.
Calculated the hours. It is not worth working 3 months a year to pay for clothes for my family. It is not worth working an entire year to just pay for the car for my family. People do not add up the amount of hours they have to work to pay for something. And that's the number one thing that we do.
One thing we don't talk about a whole lot is we talk about the money all the time. But do you know the stress it's causing your family? People wonder why their families are just falling apart and everything's happening. There's so much stress because people are working such long hours and, so hard to pay for the things. And so you need to really add that into the equation too.
Yeah. So anyway, how do you convince your husband to start saving? I don't know.
To start saving?
Saving, yeah.
It's really hard when the spouses aren't on the... Now, I was lucky in the fact that my husband knew he had a problem with spending. So when we were together, he was willing. He said, you just control it. And he would always ask me, if we had the money for this or money for that. It was only in the year that this shows you how out of control he was. It was only in the year that we were separated that he accumulated $35,000 worth of debt. And
that was before back then you didn't separate your finances when you got separated. And so you couldn't really, until you were divorced, you couldn't really do anything.
There was nothing I could do about it. And that would have been equal to like $70,000 now a day. And so it was quite a bit of money. And so while we were married, at least I was thankful that he let me control it for those years,
Tracy, I'm listening to this as I hand wash baggies and hang them to dry. That's our kind of girl.
Yeah.
You know what I don't have in the new kitchen? A baggy drying clothesline.
Did you have one in the old kitchen?
No, but why don't I have one? I should put in a baggy drying clothesline in the new thousands of dollar kitchen.
Tear out a wall and why don't you put that in?
See, I have to save all these baggies now to pay for the kitchen. No, don't. We have the cash to pay for the kitchen. We're hoping we wouldn't have to use all our cash to pay for the kitchen.
And sell your children and everything else, huh?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Yes, our cookbooks, guys, are 25% off right now. Dining on a Dime. This is volume 1. This is volume 2. And our gluten-free, dairy-free cookbook right here. Guys, I guarantee you will save money the first trip to the grocery store on your grocery bill. Everybody does. Please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and we will see you guys
Love you
next time.
guys. Bye-bye.